All right, Jason Rona back here in the JConcepts garage for another vlog episode. Here we got another special guest here with us. We got Thomas Tran, who makes a lot of trips with us out at the race events. And we wanted to get Thomas in here so we could chat a little bit about, we had a huge run of events here the past couple months, and wanted to get his input here too. It's a lot of times he's behind the camera at these events, doing either photos or videos of while the race is going on, and but a lot of perspective there too. So Thomas, you made actually a lone trip out to Chico, California, the long cross country.
Yeah, from coast to coast. It's I guess I wouldn't really say I'm used to the flight or the distance, but it gives me some downtime to think about stuff. But the track, it was my first time going to the Manufacturers Cup, and man, Kevin Jellick does a great track. It's always fun, and to me that's the style of track where it's like the old school loamy dirt, and it kind of breaks in, fluffs off, and it has that kind of character. A wonderful track, and our guys did really well. Spencer did very well in Nitro Buggy, was able to take the win, and Mayfield also doing Mayfield stuff obviously was really fast in both classes, and was able to grab the win in the truckie class.
So yeah, I mean, usually when we go out there, I mean, everyone always comments this is like one of the nicest tracks you can go to, right? It's
picturesque. For an 8 scale, that's the classic US 8 scale track, I think. Yeah. But we have in our mind that's it. So it was a privilege to get out there and check out the Silver Dollar Raceway in Chico, California. So
yeah, we talked earlier too, was the Kevin Jellick layout, like you mentioned, but Kevin's layout this time is really unique. The way you kind of drove under and then jumped back, and I mean, what was that like watching? Because the guys raced heads up at this race.
Yeah,
it wasn't a traditional qualifying; it was their heads up. So there was a lot of a little bit of drama here and there, but
sure, heads up racing always brings in drama. The start is so critical. You get bumping and grinding, and if you don't get that start, or if you're on the bad end of the stick, you shuffle to the back, and usually ends up being a drop. So, but yeah, the layout was fantastic. He always makes these jumps, transitions, and landings so beautifully. Probably one of the best at it. And this time we had a crossover. I'm not sure if people out there watching if you're fans of crossovers or not. I'm impartial. I like them sometimes when they work well. I don't like them when you have a crossover and it's dangerous to corner marshal, because it's a tough crossover. I've been to both, and this one was a good one. And it gave a lot of room, a lot of runway, and you're able to make it easily. So everybody was able to make the crossover very nicely, and it made for great racing. It added to the character of the track versus making it an obstacle, which sometimes I feel like some track designs are.
So, like we said earlier, Spencer came through there in the end. Mayfield kind of had a great first day, and then Spencer came through in the end and got the win in buggy, which was a little uncharacteristic of Ryan to give it up there at the end, but Spencer was the beneficiary of that mistake. It was just a last lap thing. Sometimes it happens. Ryan landed, rail slid. Spencer got by him, and
it was building up to that moment the whole race. So the last, Spencer was getting closer. These two were checking out, and the game plan, I would assume, is check out and then battle it towards the end. And Spencer was building momentum as the chaser and was able to bring it in and challenge for that lead and then going up the wall ride. And like you said, Mayfield made an uncharacteristic mistake. I think he was trying to cover a little bit. So if Spencer was trying to get by, they would collide, and then they both wreck. And so that would maybe prevent him from getting by. Didn't happen. Crossed over, landed on the pipe, and kind of bounced off. And it was not often you see a mistake out of Mayfield like that, especially in the closing moments. And for Spencer to be there and to challenge for that moment, this time it went. He drove remarkable, and this time went on his side, so he was able to get that pass done and took the win. So good for him.
And then we got Ryan, who dominated the truggy there. It was kind of an easy go for him in that one, and got it done. I think he won 3 of the 4 races or something like that.
Clockwork for him in truggy. I think was just had the pace, was able to do what he wanted to do, and control the field and check out and dominate.
I think as usual there we normally run like a a blue compound tire. I think the guys like the Stalkers, and we Reflex Triple Ds. That's the kind of the assortment of tires we usually use there at Amy, because they keep it a little watered, then it dries, so you kind of have to be on the blue compound. But that was what was so good on the Truggy and the Buggy.
Yeah, Stalkers and Reflexes work really well in blue. I mean, it appears some at moments when it's hot, you think R2, it's time for something harder. Yeah. But it's kind of false gold. It never really kind of leads that way. You stay on blues, and it ends up for the entire run, because like you said, it's watered. So at the beginning of the run, you get a certain kind of track. Middle of the run, you have a different track, and at the end, you have the loosest track, and you're just kind of hanging on and not trying not to blow it and cross the line and just finish your 5 minutes or whatever. But the blue compound works really well, and I think sometimes you have a tire advantage or maybe a compound advantage, and I think on this time I think it was on our side, so it was good for our team.
So there you got back. You loaded up, and you and the crew, you went up to AMS 10.0, which is 10 now. I remember going to the very first one with Paul.
AMS 1.
Yeah, I went to the first one with Paul, and we were kind of like nobodies up there at that time. 10 years ago, people trying to get a grip on what we were capable of in 8 scale. People knew we could do some stuff in 10 scale back then, and 8 scale was we were trying to prove what we could get going. 10 years ago, and Mayfield came in there, put on a show at that point for us, like he's done so many times, and. But it's been a great event for us over the years, and we always like going there. And I know you talk to the racers a lot, and they say that this is like the conditions and the surface there is one of the better indoor ones.
AMS is always fun. It's probably my favorite indoor of races of Dave Lycom's race. The size is about right for me, coming from 10 scale. If you're an 8 scale guy, maybe you're thinking it's a little bit small on the smaller side, but always makes for great racing though. It's very tight, and this time we got to use gold ellipses for which I think I've been there two other times, and I don't remember in the past we were able to get to golds, or maybe one of the runs would be like an experiment. We'll try golds and see if it works, and it was iffy. It wasn't really wasn't enough to go that direction. It was like, it was good here, but not good over here, and so some pluses and minuses. But this time we got Cavalieri running gold ellipses the whole time in qualifying into the mains, and had really good speed. So I thought that was unique for this race.
Yeah, I think Mayfield couldn't attend this year. He's obviously been probably the winningest driver at that race, but with the Roar Nats being essentially back-to-back, which we'll get into here shortly, he chose to kind of bow out of that one, but it allowed Cavalieri, Spencer, the other guys, they have a lot of success there, and Cavalieri TQ'd the top class pro buggy.
Yeah,
he got a second place out of it.
I think he was really stoked, obviously switching over from to S-Works and getting more time under with the cars. You got to see him really start wheeling the car and getting TQs, and it's something that we haven't seen Cavalieri do for a bit, and he's even said that when we were taking the TQ photo, I remember it was like, let's do this photo over here, let's make it good over here, and he goes, let's make it good, it's been a while, and I was like, it's been a while, so let's make a proper one. So we went inside in the track here and did a nicer photo with the track background and stuff. So I think he was stoked. He didn't get the win in the main, but I think he was happy with his pace and with his gear, and so that's always a positive. Yeah,
he was kind of our positive guy that weekend in terms of results. He was on the podium, I believe, in all 3 classes, and he was right there in the mix, right?
The 5-man podium.
Yeah,
you get that extra chance to be in all the podiums when it's 5. So.
Yeah, the races. The Dave Lycom events here, they've increased it to a 5-man podium.
5-man podium, you got 15-man main, so you got to if the main's bigger, we got to make the podium bigger.
Yeah,
so bigger, better, badder, right? So.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people like that.
I like it.
Yeah, they like the 5 guys up there. It gives another shot at getting in there in your picture and getting your trophy and showing that you've accomplished something, because like you said, they got these mains are stacked, 15, sometimes 17 guys in these races.
Yeah, 15 plus 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just like
And to get in the top 5, it is an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And it is the best of the skill level in that region, in that area of that time.
Yeah.
So it does matter, I think, and it matters to a lot of people that come and attend days of events.
And of the tracks that I've had opportunity to run at, I've ran at that track myself, and we love that track. I mean, that's
great
to me.
indoor.
That's I've always said to people, you could really entice me to race anything there because of the way the dirt is and the conditions. And Cullman, Alabama, isn't the biggest town in the world, and but a racer looks at the track, and you look at the driver stand on the track and say, as long as these two things are good, you can accept it.
What's the driving experience like? And second part is, am I going to do good?
Yeah.
So you always want to do what you're comfortable with, I guess.
So we took a tiny break, and then we did the Roar Nationals, which Paul and yourself, you drove out there to Hutto, Texas. We hit these big towns.
Hutto.
Yeah, we hit these big towns, and we go into Texas, and a place we've been several times now, Thornhill, which, like I said, this would be another track that I would always race. I wouldn't be afraid to race anything there.
I'd be game for this.
Yeah, and I like being there. I like the pits. They got the air-conditioned pits and the little dome. Then you got the nice a covered track, which it works out so nice, because when you're trying to run a national caliber event, if you got to deal with the rain and all that type of stuff, I mean, the stress level.
In Florida, it was very stressful, and I think the drivers get antsy when they don't know if, are we going to run it in 30 minutes? Are we going to run it in 4 hours? Are we going to run tomorrow? Is this thing canceled? So like people are kind of like stressing out, and so it's good when you don't have to worry about that stress and be like, you can just focus on racing.
Yeah.
In this kind of racing, Thornhill, I think kind of a legendary U.S. track, very unique in terms of its, tire choices and selection. Especially this year, it seemed to have gone up another level, another notch.
Yeah.
Like, tire warmers.
Yeah. Well, we'd had a little bit of everything there, and we brought, everything in the kitchen sink with us to this race. Every compound that we had, and we used something at any point, and we started on greens and blues, and we tried some aquas, and we tried we ended up on the gold. We ended up on the gold compound, which is a typical indoor compound for us, and we're lucky enough to have Ryan's Truggy here with us too. But it was just a great race in general, and our guys really their skill on those services, their equipment, plus the having the right tire at the right time, that's something that worked out for us.
I think that was probably the biggest challenge. It seemed like for a moment we had like 3 options, 3 different compounds, and maybe 2 different treads in each of the compounds. So everything was working very well. There was a decision that drivers had to make, and I think for some drivers it was harder to make because, I don't know, they're looking for speed, but they have to balance some comfort, So if you're looking for the most speed, drivers would end up going to the gold tires. And then you're looking for a little bit more comfort and a little bit more, I guess, tire prep, you'd go aqua. And if you're looking for more grip, but easy to drive, maybe not the fastest, you'd go blue. And some drivers, it would be right for certain drivers. So that was unique, I think, to have different compounds all working basically the same. It's just a level of comfort and maybe just a tick more speed in this combination versus going with that. So
yeah, and that's kind of how things kind of progressed throughout the weekend. We had our top guys, whether it was Mayfield, Spencer, Cavallari, we others running really well. Tyler Jones was running awesome there. Alex K, guys that were really bringing it. But in the end, we had this 45-minute Truggy main with Ryan and Spencer, which 45 minutes. I don't know how. I mean, there were less than a second at the finish.
Constantly trying to calculate when Spencer, because Spencer had one less pit stop to make, and Mayfield had to make up that pit stop on the track. So at different points, you would see Mayfield in the lead, clearly in the lead, and then you'll see Spencer in the lead, and you know that time would cross over, but you didn't know who was going to be in the lead when that time was crossing over, and it was close. And when it did cross over, it was a fight till the finish. And after 45 minutes being 1 second apart, if you imagine the distance you're actually covering in 45 minutes that they do, and you're telling me that after 45 minutes they're only 1 second apart, which is probably maybe like a distance of about, I don't know, a few feet maybe, and that's 1 second, and that's how far, and at 3 feet apart after 45 minutes of over, like, I don't know how many miles they probably drove on that track, but that's just insane. That's as good as it gets in terms of like close racing.
Yeah, and I told Ryan afterwards, I think it's one of the better races he's ever ran, start to finish. He had great pit stops, and I'm not going to say I stole this truggy from him, but I kind of said, hey, I want to get your truggy after this race, and he was nice enough to give us that truggy here for the JConcepts. We're
just going to not return it, I think.
Yeah.
We'll probably just keep it over here.
So far, we've got the trophy, we got the truck, and I haven't really let go.
If Ryan's watching, we're going to slowly eBay each piece off. Like the truggy's probably last. Yeah. The trophy's probably first. Let's see what they go for.
Yeah. And it's just something. I was thinking at the time, like, you know what, he's gonna text me and say, hey, I need this thing back for the E-Nationals, which also we'll talk about soon, but he didn't. It's still here. It's ready to go.
I'm pretty sure the way Ryan is, he's already on to the next thing. He's not thinking about the past. He's on to the next.
And then we get into the buggy semifinals here. Big time event. We got, like Ryan we're just talking about. He doesn't make the main, has a problem while leading the race again, like he did a year ago.
Yeah,
and a little flashback for him.
Same thing.
Where he wasn't able to get in there, and a little bummer.
Kind of a deja vu moment, I think. If had Ryan made it into the show, it would have been a very similar show to what we saw in E-Truggy, or sorry, Nitro Truggy, but like. It would be fantastic, and I feel like as fans and as viewers, we were kind of robbed of that, unfortunately, because it would have been just as good, but like in buggy, and just it would have been awesome. But Spencer held it down in for us, so it was good.
Yeah, I mean, he bumped out of his semi, no problem, and then Ryan, of course, didn't quite make it in, and then we had Cavallari, who was also really strong in that race. He led for quite a while. Gave it up to Spencer, and Spencer stretched it on him a little bit, but I had a feeling that Spencer became more comfortable with his tire and the wear rate over the course of the time, and then Cavallari just like, you know what, I can't push it too much more, and I'm just going to stay right here.
Spencer compensated a lot. He was saying that in his live video that he was actually turning his dual rate down when he was going into the pits, so he'd have left steering as his tires got more and more slick. So he was compensating and thinking ahead. So and when I was watching Cavallari's car on the track, as the car got more and more slick, the tires got more and more slick, his car was not reacting and liking the fact that it was getting more and more slick. It was good when it was tread, and then as it got more and more slick, it just seemed like it was harder to drive, and wasn't able to kind of wheel it as hard as Spencer was. And so that was the difference, but the two guys ended up very close in the end, still same lap, I think, and it was a great race for Spencer for sure, and Cavallari.
Putting in a strong 60 minutes, I mean, it's no joke to finish a race that length anywhere you go.
Yeah.
But it was challenging.
I think people, when they say, when they watch the stuff and they're like, oh, they're on slicks, this is not off-road, or 8-scale racing, or what it's become. It's like, you're still racing something. You're racing something on a surface that's so challenging, and to be able to be locked in and focused for an hour and trying to be perfect so you can win a race, you're still racing, like it's intense, and the intensity is not any different if it was on a loose track or a track that required slicks. So maybe even more intense on slicks, so because you're just going fast the whole time.
Yeah, and I think to kind of bring up another point here, what you worked on after this race, we came up with this tire setup guide.
Yeah, so we've been doing the track tire guides just to give people an idea when we go to these tracks and find some success, or find a good combination of windows or of how to get the tires, prep the tires. I always felt that it was good to have some information down, and Jason was like, hey, why don't we just share this stuff? I was like, do we have to give all the secrets away? And Jay's like, yeah, why not? I was like, okay, fine. So we made it public, and so now any time we go to one of these big races, we'll have a track tire guide so that people can follow along and get some ideas, try stuff on their own, maybe learn a few things. We talk about in these tires guide, we accommodate for humidity and track surfaces and foam prep and things like that. So it's very in-depth and it has a lot of information. So we'll start off, I think, with our first tire guide being a Fuel Nationals. So was a good one.
Yeah, and these things are going to vary depending on how the track is, of course. And the more specific that we get to that track, such as indoor racing, 10 scale racing, there's always more tire info. The more indoor, the more slick conditions you get. When you go outdoors, I think, and especially in 8 scale, it's going to get much more simple. And
that's what you would think, right?
But we've allowed we've allowed enough space in there to give a lot of information. But I think that's something to look for is, there's a lot of information to start here because, first of all, we want to show a lot of information. But second, these conditions are very specific and they're very demanding. And as we go along and we open up to the larger tracks outside, you're going to see this stuff kind of get a little more simple in terms of the tire you're using and the compound, and less about the prep, but more about which one you're using. Because that's what usually changes outside. And
I think in 8 scale, typically you're looking for like temperature, how the track surface is, the hardness. So you can kind of adjust which compound and then, kind of guess which tread. With indoor racing, it's a lot different. You're basically saucing the heck out of your tires to get as much grip as you can to go fast. You know? So you'll have different track tire guides, 2 different worlds, but all dealing with the same things: tires, tire setups. So. And
we kind of moved on from there. We had a little bit of a break. We did the Summer Indoor Nationals, and then the guys back in Florida here, we had our first super indoor tour at New Red Hobbies. So we kind of got 2 things. We got 2 things kind of going on here because we're in 2 locations. But Thomas and I, we were out in Chandler, Arizona at Hobby Action, doing the Summer Indoor Nats, which I always like going to Hobby Action because it's just so nice.
Yeah, the people, the vibe, the track, the area, it's so good. So I enjoy my time at Hobby Action all the time.
Yeah, when you're outside there, you're in Arizona in the summer because it's like 113, 115. I think Spencer wrote 115 on the setup sheet.
He wrote 110. I was like, 110? Yeah. So I bumped it up a couple of degrees because I knew it was hotter than your 110. So whatever.
Yeah.
But we're indoors, race conditions. The track tire guide that I just released today, I think, was Hobby Action. So we were indoors. So the track's temperature was 75 or something like that, he wrote. So
amazing that Larry and the crew, they can keep that building 75 degrees in there, but it is nice.
When you have AC and in a track facility, that's a luxury. That's definitely a luxury.
And when we talk about 10 scale racing that has progressed, and this track to me really shows everything that you got. It shows you what you got with your car, what you got with your driving, and what you got with your tires, because this is as fast and as competitive and as close as I think we've seen all year. There was maybe 2 or 3 rounds I can remember that went down to 9/10 or 1 second between the top 4 guys. And it's just, they're hauling the mail, and at the end they look up at the big scoreboard Larry has in there, and they're like, okay, where am I at? And it's 9/10 of a second separates you from being the man to 4th, right?
Yeah, it's a really tough, atmosphere. The whole thing is really difficult. Not only is the track difficult, your competition, they're not taking it easy. There's no days off.
No,
they're there. You have to show up. You have to, put in 100%. Otherwise, you'll, be back. You'll have one of those weekends where, didn't really have the weekend I was hoping for, and no one really wants to have that. So they want to, do good. So these guys are at that level of, always wanting to do good. So that competition is so high at Hobby Action. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think, what Mayfield has, made it a point for himself is he says it's the hardest place for him to race. It's his home track, but he says it really challenges him the most. He feels that Spencer always runs really well there because he can kind of balance the consistency with the speed and finishing a main without crashing. Basically, he's like Spencer's the best at those three things at this track. He always has success. He's like, I usually have 2 of the 3, or I don't quite get it all. And he's like, I do well. I've won once, but it's tough there.
Yeah, you can't just like luck out and get and do good, or just rely on sheer talent, because you have to have everything working for you. Your tire prep, your that whole process has to be just perfect. We went through from testing octagons to ground down slicks, and there was a method and reason and why to have that process, and every little bit matters. And when you have to race like guys like Ty and Cavalier and Spencer and Mayfield and when Dakota's there and Tebow's there at nationals or whatever, it makes for a really extreme, tough racing environment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we showed up and we saw the test runs, we're like, oh man, here they go. This now the competition level just went up a notch, because it goes from sort of a ho hum, well, 3 or 4 guys will battle, to okay, Ty's here, now we got to take it serious.
Everybody has to take it serious. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like they naturally do that.
Yeah,
it's just like everybody they're competitive with each other. But I think with the guys like Spencer and Mayfield and Cavalier, they're okay with losing to each other. They don't want to lose to each other, but they're okay with it. But then when they lose to the competition, not somebody outside the circle, they get a little bit grumpy and protective. So they lose to Ty, or they lose to I don't know who, Davide or somebody outside. It's just like, oh man, I gotta show up and do better.
It brings, and you know what? In the end, halfway through the race, I'm like, you know what? This is great actually, because these guys cannot, go easy here, because the Nationals is coming up in a month, and that was a great preparation, and in the end. We had to have some fantastic performances from Mayfield in qualifying. He broke once while he was leading a qualifier, put him in a bind. He had to run a great run in the last round. He TQs the last round of 4-wheel and 2-wheel, but the 2-wheel one, that was the real crunch time that put him in the mix and kind of got him in it.
Yeah, he kind of salvaged it, even though he didn't have things go perfectly his way. I think he's, like you said, kind of coming around to that. Running on slicks, the hobby action style, I guess, the indoor slick heating tricks and stuff. So he's coming around to that, and his driving style doesn't really fully match. I think he wants to hammer down a little harder than make very precise, clean lines. He mustered out a decent result from the weekend for sure.
Yeah, and Spencer kind of carried the weight there. Ty was the TQ and 2-wheel, but Spencer won the first main, won the second main, and kind of got it done early.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was watching that, I think Spencer did it with a lot of mental strength. He wasn't going to lose on his home turf, especially as the current 2-wheel national champion, winning it there at Hobby Action. So he wasn't going to lose 2-wheel there. I feel like he kind of forced that win and just kind of got his mental game in there and was able to drive and perform to the level he needed to get the win done. So because Ty's not an easy guy to defeat in any class or at any time, so you have to be on your game. He's going to bring it every time. So, and then Spencer obviously did, so it was good for him. And
then in 4-wheel, it was a little bit more of a battle. Went down to the third main. And Spencer and Mayfield actually had 2 really good races in those series of mains, but the third main went down. Mayfield ended up winning the main, Spencer second, and that gave the overall to Spencer, second to Mayfield. Yeah,
it was a good comeback by Mayfield too, and that one in 4-wheel to kind of put him in position to be second. Had he not won that, he wouldn't have been, I think, maybe third or fourth. So having won a 3, locked him in the second basically by the tiebreaker, and then Spencer. I know he was really stoked to win 4-wheel there, because he's saying since the place is open and all the events that he's had, he hasn't won 4-wheel there, and now he has. So I don't know. He keeps getting stronger at Hobby Action, which is not going to be easy for anybody that goes there. So he's got that motivation and that extra effort. I think some people are lacking, and you can see it. So if he's willing to do all that to run at Hobby Action every time, that's a lot of motivation, a lot of effort.
So, and then as we mentioned, back in Florida, the guys are running the Super Indoor Tour. We weren't at that one. We checked it out online.
Checked it out all weekend.
Yeah, and what we did is we tried to do something a little different with our format there. This time we did 2 4-minute qualifiers, but you were ranked by seating. Like we did your best 3 laps seated you on the grid. So similar to like we would do at a big race where it's seating puts you in your qualifier. What we did is we did the 3 seating laps to determine where you would be in the main. So
what do you think you would do? Would you go all out to go 3 laps, or would you just kind of just cruise into it and just kind of secure 3 laps and move on?
Yeah, I think that's the strategy.
Yeah,
you have to determine what your strategy is.
You're either going to hero 3 laps in, or...
I think there's some people that really would excel going for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's where their strength is in general, is being able to run 3 amazing laps.
Okay.
And I think for me, my strategy, I would probably go into it thinking I'm going to try a little harder for 3 laps, but they're all going to come out the same anyway. So I think in general...
back it down.
Yeah, I think in general...
I naturally probably would back it down and just kind of cruise.
Yeah.
Well, not cruise, but obviously go fast, but make sure I got 3 solid laps in versus just hero every lap. Some people are good at just throwing out those hero laps.
Yeah, I think I would still feel my best chance is to put 3 pretty good 3 laps together and see where that puts me. If that's where it is, and that was something they went through. So they tried that out.
Yep.
Lee Setzer, AJ, these guys were running really well over the weekend. I think Lee. Then we did a double A main format.
Okay.
So you had to run 2 A mains, and Lee won both the mains in 2-wheel and 4-wheel. AJ also did really well with the stock buggy like usual, but then we also had him working on this project back at the shop.
Yeah, this guy here.
We had the EGT.
He worked on this thing for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it's a tough project because what we
parts.
did is we started off, we bought a truck on eBay, an old RC10 GT on eBay, and he's looking at this thing when I'm handing it to him like, what do you want me to do with this thing?
He's looking at this and he's wondering why it has standard screws and screw heads, and we're like, dude, what? You haven't built anything with standards? Yeah. No, he's in the era of metric cars.
Yeah. And, so it was interesting because I said, all right, take this thing apart, give the parts to Fred. He's going to make them all one color because, this truck was had some red parts.
Yep.
And so we evened it all out and we made this thing really a nice looking piece.
Yeah, it's a beautiful truck now, man.
Yeah.
This thing is awesome.
We put our conversion kit for the EGT on it, and that was the whole idea, to see how competitive this truck would be against all the new generation vehicles. And he did well. He got a podium finish with it. We got a little video, and then we have a story, of course, the
inside look to this thing. If you guys want to inside look to it, then just check out the JConcepts blog. Yeah. You can search EGT inside look, and then that should pop up, and then you can have all these different photos and text to see it a little bit closer than just being able to see it here on the desk. Yeah,
and I think there's some people out there that are surprised that it ran as well as it did.
When I watched the video, I was really surprised. I was like, I thought this thing would just spin out and just, be very inconsistent. But this thing looked more consistent to drive. It's a mid-motor truck, so in my mind, mid-motor trucks just really difficult to drive these days. And so this is a mid-motor truck. I watched the video. The thing is hooked up. It's so hooked up, the rear end is planted and it's pushing off the track, kind of, So like you're driving with a lot of brakes to try to get this thing to rotate and steer because it's locked in, which is what the modern trucks, mid-motor trucks, are missing. I don't understand where we went. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of differences, but it was a fun experiment, a fun project. We kind of threw it all on AJ and said, let's build this thing. And then with the help of you and Fred, anytime he had a question, Fred, if he had to modify, drill something, come up with a part out of nowhere, or just Thomas saying, hey, that's not right.
Yeah, I thought, when they hear, I was like, this thing's going to break. I was like, this dude isn't going to make it through the weekend. And when I talked to AJ, he said that there was never any issues. The thing ran perfect, didn't break any parts. I was amazed. Yeah. Like, I thought maybe a rear suspension mount or a front shock tower or something, and break off the front bulkhead or whatever. But nothing happened. Caster blocks all worked good. No bearings exploded. E-clips are all on. It's a modified mid-motor, badass truck. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's one of our fun little projects, and wanted to have AJ experience that, and just have a good weekend, and that's what it was. And we have 3 of these summer indoor tours, and I don't know if he's going to run it at the next one. I believe is at Beachline, but he'd have to put some turf.
I think he should.
He'd have some turf.
Well, we can kind of create a story that we just follow this truck's kind of racing, current racing history. The last one was obviously at New Red. The next one will be on turf, and we can see where AJ goes and how the truck looks on a totally different surface, different tires too. So it'd be fun.
So it was a great experiment, and we'll keep following it. And we got 2 more races on the indoor tour, which, like you said, we got one at Beachline, and then we're gonna go with Setzers.
Let's see if AJ can get a win by the end.
Yeah, by the end.
Let's see if AJ can get this truck into first place. That would be a story.
Yeah, it will be a great story. So moving on from that event, we just got back from the Roar E Nationals, and went up to. I really didn't see anything about this track going in.
Yeah. I knew nothing about this track. Yeah, so what did you think when you first saw it, when you got on the driver's stand? You're like, I'm
like, why haven't I seen more of this track? I don't know what it is, if I'm not liking the right pages or something. But for some reason, I didn't know much. Yeah. I didn't know much about it. But specific facility for an RC track. They built one of those big domes.
Yeah, looks like a greenhouse dome.
Yeah, and great positioning. The track is set in there very nice. It's got great dirt. It's smooth. A lot of people online are giving us a little hard time because they're like, the track's too small for 8 scale. But it's not like the racers determine where this race is going to be. They race where it is,
Yeah.
And, a lot of people say, well, it only should be on this kind of track. But you know what? You move from track to track. You don't control the track, and the racers race. And next time it'll be on some other track, and you have to adjust to that. But here, we're on this track.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised when I got there. I was like, this is a great building. It's a great hobby shop. It's really clean and nice. We had AC pits. The track was completely
AC
protected.
Pits. Can't beat that.
Can't beat.
Yeah, especially in the summertime. It's a kind of a must. So.
And the track itself had misters like OCRC.
What?
Yeah.
We didn't get to see that on video or on any of the photos. So I didn't know that.
They had it set up every 8 minutes. The misters would come out, and they'd get a little bit. What they want to do is keep the dust down.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. Is the owner was talking to me about the reason why they did some of the things they did. The size of the track, the driver stand, the misters, and they put a lot of thought into this, and I thought it actually came out really well. We had a good turnout there. 2 rounds of qualifying on Friday, 2 on Saturday, mains on Sunday, and we had our crew there. We had our whole. We had Mayfield, Spencer, Cavallari. We had Alex K. We had Jackson. We had the guys from LCRC, Kevin, and Cody. And we had a lot of our good drivers there that weekend. Pat Rossiter was there. We had some great drivers there, and it was nice to watch them all run the different classes.
Yeah, that's good. We definitely have a good mix of guys. The more I spend time with these guys at the tracks and at races, it's they're all really fun to hang out with, and that's definitely a good group of dudes.
We started off, and Ryan was. He's the defending champ, was in Truggy and Buggy. And in Truggy, he got a couple seconds for the round, second and third. And in Buggy, he struggled a little bit the first day.
Yeah, it seemed like he was kind of a little bit off. Maybe the car wasn't right, or he didn't have the pace. I thought he would be towards the top instantly, like he normally is. But things seemed to like kind of kick off a little slower for him at this Nationals.
Yeah, and then he kind of got rolling the second day. He made some changes. Like he said in one of our videos, he made some changes. He ended up finding the tire compound that he liked. And then he went to work. He got second in the third round.
Yeah.
It really set him up for the TQ run in the fourth round, which really he set the fastest time. Then he got TQ, and that's where he wanted to be on that track.
Yeah. Being a tight track and smaller, I guess, for 8 scale, you definitely want to have the track position, because it was going to be hard to, like, if you're anywhere probably lower than third, it'd be really a hard race to win, just because of how close everything is. And having him TQ'd basically got him the win there. for sure.
Yeah, and he really kind of got the confidence rolling at that point. I know in Truggy he was looking to get that win also, but qualifying third in Truggy behind Joe and Dakota, he didn't really have the ability. He was kind of watching to see if there would be some havoc up front. Maybe he could take advantage, but it never really presented itself.
And that's what happened. Like I said, like it would be hard to win the race from third, and then having TQ buggy, the result was a win, and having qualified third, it was basically third.
and that's kind of what he had to accept. There was a couple chances in there. He went for it a couple times. It didn't pay off, and he even admitted. He said, "Hey, I one main I was right there with Joe." He's like, I decided I was like not gonna go for second. I was going for the win, and he really wanted to put pressure on him, and he tapped out on a pipe, and then it was like, back to third. He's like, all right, well,
yeah, you kind of just I'm just gonna keep it here. And this is it.
And then in buggy, it's kind of a picture perfect A main 1 and 2. He just got out front, and what I was surprised in, when I run races like this. It's like I get out in the lead and you take it easy a little bit and you're like, oh, let's see what happens. Maybe these guys will tie up a little bit and maybe I'll get this kind of gifted, But in his situation, I think he was actually stronger at the beginning of those races than he was at the end because he knew that's where he needed to have a little gap.
Yeah, typically like these days when I watch Mayfield drive, he seems to have a kind of a slower start, feels the pace, and then kind of ups it towards when he needs to. And and when I was watching that race, like you said, he had a different kind of approach. It looked like he was, all right, my goal is to break away quick and then just get a gap and then cruise after that. Versus sometimes you're like, okay, I'll feel it out and then see what happens, and then I'll turn it on when I need to. That's usually the plan A, but he seemed with the plan B, and it worked out for him. Spencer really he tried to to hang and keep up with Mayfield to keep him honest, but it seemed like Mayfield just had a little bit extra when he needed to kind of stretch it out. Yeah,
especially at the beginning, and then get that gap, and once you get that gap on that track, that's what you needed, and then he was able to sit out A3. Spencer kind of really laid it down in the third main, had the fastest time.
Run,
and
it's always nice to have. I got beat, but hey, I put in the fastest
I got the speed.
Run, baby.
I got the speed, and
gotcha.
So that was able to give us the 1-2 there. We're using the Ellipse tire, which is again good.
The Ellipse tire has been since it's been released for 8 scale in gold, and then now we're obviously testing the blues and the greens. They've been really, really good indoors. Everywhere we go, that we get to run a bar tire, and they've definitely had more longevity in terms of wear over like our old dirt webs for 8 scale. They would qualify well, but you couldn't run them in the main, or 20 minutes or something like that. So, but the Ellipse seemed to have that ability. I don't know, surface area or whatever, but they have that ability to run in qualifying and in mains, which is really, really nice to be able to set your car up in qualifying like you want to, and then have it ready to go in the main because you didn't have to alter their tires and pick a long wear tire that will make a 45-minute run or something. So it's been great. The Ellipse have been winning a lot of indoor races, and from the feedback and all the results that we've had, they've been doing really well. So it's been awesome.
So look out for that. We got some more of the track and the tire guides coming out to show what we were using, what was going on. And like I said, they're going to vary depending on the surface and how much information, because sometimes you have more work than others and more changes than others, and that's just how it's goes. So look out for those tire guides. I think they're really important to keep people kind of on track. And if they want to pay attention to what we're doing and what's up with JConcepts, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. You'll probably find the latest tire information. Obviously, knowledge is key to a lot of success in RC racing, and having this tire guide and along with manufacturer chassis setups and stuff, you can really start to just catapult yourself into the sharp end of the knife, I guess, and then hopefully the results and everything go really well.
So coming up, kind of to close out here, we got a list of events that's coming up here for us. We're a little bit of a break here momentarily as we build up for the Roar 10 Scale Nationals, which is going to be in Ohio.
Exciting. That's going to be an awesome race. It's the best of the best of here in the U.S. plus Canada, I guess North America, and it's going to be an exciting race. Another indoor 10 skill race where all the best drivers here in the U.S. are there. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
And then back here in Florida, we got the Super Indoor Tour going, as we mentioned earlier, going over to Beachline. That's going to be here, coming up in August. Then we're going to be in September, one of our favorite races, which is the Turf Nats at RC Madness.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy to think that we're kind of rolling towards September already, but we're not that far away.
And I think that right after that is the Worlds, right?
Yeah.
So, busy schedule, a little break, but then it gets really busy and quite serious. I guess a lot of fun. RC Madness. If you guys haven't seen it yet or heard about it, or if you live in an area and haven't check it out because RC Madness is awesome. A lot of fun. The turf there is just so just unique and fun to drive on, forgiving, unlike any other turf track I've been on. So our tires work really well. We have a lot of local guys there that run really fast and represent well there. So looking forward to reconnecting with them at the Turf Nationals up in Connecticut.
And then soon after that we're going to go. We got a monster truck event at Samson's Open House, which is PEI, Patrick's Enterprises, event that they asked us to put on. We wanted to do a monster truck RC event alongside their open house. So Fred is going to head up there with the crew, and Thomas and I are going to be going to our Fall Indoor Nationals in Warren, Michigan, which is
first time
RC Clubhouse.
Place looks amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I've heard a lot of great things from all different racers. They're like, "Have you been to RC Club?" I'm like, "Nah, where's that?" And so now that that's on the schedule, we get to go and check it out and represent a great area and facility from everything that I've heard. So I can't wait.
Yeah, so for early October, we're talking about the JConcepts Unchained, which is going to be our monster truck event at the PEI Open House. Yep. And then we'll be over in Warren, Michigan at RC Clubhouse for the Fall Indoor Nationals. So busy stretch of events there, including the Worlds in between, but we're going to get it done. And we'd like to thank Thomas here for joining us, giving us a little insight too from his end. And thanks for joining us here on another episode of the JConcepts vlog, and we'll see you next time.